Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade.
And I'm Russ Reesing. Your Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke is officially out.
The former Montana congressman turned President Trump cabinet member who rode into Washington 22 months ago on a horse left the nation's capital today in a more subdued manner.
Interior Secretary Zinke wrapped up his last day with a tweet and a handwritten note scribbled in red. The secretary announced in December that he would leave the post amid multiple conduct investigations.
At that time, Zinke said he was proud of the work done at the Department of the Interior during his time, but could not justify spending thousands of dollars defending himself against, quote, false allegations. Those allegations include the department's handling of a Connecticut casino project, whether the boundaries of a national monument were redrawn to benefit a state lawmaker, and a land development project in Zinke's hometown of Whitefish.
Zinke was the first Montanan to serve on the presidential cabinet. No announcements have been made on what he plans to do next.
Well, not everyone is unhappy about Zinke's tenure as Interior Secretary coming to an end. This
full-page ad, paid for by the Montana Conservation Voters Education Fund, appeared in the Billings Gazette today. It took a parting shot at Zinke, saying he embarrassed Montana in his short time as Interior Secretary. That ad accuses Zinke of decreasing access to public lands, degrading access to them by allowing the oil and gas industry to drill, and paving the way for developers to build in our parks, among other things.
Now, the ad goes on to say that Montanans deserve and expect more from the next Interior Secretary.
Well, President Trump met with Democratic and Republican congressional leaders to try and strike a deal to end the shutdown, now in its second week.
But so far, there is no resolution in sight. Natalie Brand has the latest from the White House.
With the partial government shutdown heading into day 13, Democrats and Republicans remain at an impasse over funding for President Trump's border wall.
We spend in Afghanistan more in 1 month than what we're talking about for the wall. Think of that. What I'm talking about is the $5.6 billion that the House approved.
But after a closed-door meeting in the White House Situation Room with the president and top Republicans, Democratic leaders made clear on Wednesday they're not giving in.
They are now feeling the heat. It is not helping the president. It is not helping the Republicans to be the owners of this shutdown. Today we gave them an opportunity to get out of that.
Since the start of this standoff, Democrats have called the wall a non-starter, and they plan to put a different proposal on the floor of the U.S. House when they take over control on Thursday. Incoming Speaker-designate Nancy Pelosi says her plan would reopen government agencies currently closed, funding them through September. A separate bill would fund Homeland Security into early February, but not include money for the wall.
Our question to the president and to the Republicans is, why don't you accept what you have already done to open up government? And that enables us to have 30 days to negotiate for border security.
Even if the new Democratic-controlled House approves the proposal, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the Senate would not take up a bill that the president won't sign. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Incoming House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said the president wants to bring both sides back on Friday for another meeting after leadership elections are completed.
Well, due to the shutdown, some national parks that Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke oversaw are getting overrun with garbage. But we are told today Yellowstone Park is looking pretty good.
Yeah, that's because community members and local businesses have been stepping up. Yellowstone also has the benefit of decreased visitation in the colder months, but that doesn't mean that the park is immune to the government shutdown.
Everyone's just trying to help out there, and so we've just asked our guides to assist, and other operators are doing the same. I think if this continues long term, then as operators we'll probably put our heads together and figure out a cleaning or maintenance type schedule. I have not heard a negative comment from any of our guests about what it's done with the shutdown, and so that's a good thing that they're not seeing that or feeling those impacts. It is unfortunate that the people who work in the park, who are friends and colleagues, are out of work right now. So that is disappointing because we do miss them and we miss the services that they do provide at the visitor centers and other things, maintenance and different things that they do. So they are missed.
Well, Watts also says the tours have not always been open during shutdowns, which is helping employees.
Well, it's almost 2 years until Montanans vote for the next governor, but today Secretary of State Corey Stapleton got a jump start on that race as he announced he's running in 2020. The first prominent Republican in the race, the 51-year-old Stapleton, is a former state senator from Billings who was elected Secretary of State in 2016. Stapleton says he'd like to help guide Montana toward being a state with stronger families, higher wages, lower taxes, and smaller government. Another Republican, Attorney General Tim Fox, has said he's considering a run for governor in 2020. And sources tell MTN News that Republican Congressman Greg Gianforte is giving the race a look as well. Gianforte lost the 2016 governor's race to Democrat Steve Bullock, who cannot run in 2020 because of term limits. Now, Stapleton told MTN News Wednesday that he believes he can be a candidate who appeals beyond just the Republican base.
I am someone absolutely who's enjoyed Democratic support, independent support, libertarian support, constitutionalist support. And so I want to serve everyone, but I think most importantly, I want to set a vision and show people what I would like to accomplish with their support and their vote, and then get to work with the legislature on it.
As of yet, no Democrat has surfaced as a 2020 candidate for Montana governor.
Frustration and new court filings today surrounding a sex abuse case that dates back 30 years in the town of Miles City.
The new today, lawyers for victims in the case are now asking a judge to force the school district to hand over evidence, documents they say they aren't getting. Back in September, a civil lawsuit was filed by dozens of former Custer County high school students who claimed they were repeatedly sexually abused by the district's longtime athletic trainer, James Jensen. Those allegations dating from the mid-1970s until 1998. Jensen is currently sitting in the Yellowstone County Detention Center in Billings, facing federal and state charges relating to child pornography and coercion.
Now, attorney Dan Rice says the school district is not handing over vital information in the case. Rice says that includes details about the district's insurance and objecting to questions about any investigations the district may have conducted into Jensen's behavior over the years. Lawyers also say at this point they're not getting details and evidence for how Jensen was let go from the district.
They were sent in by coaches to receive athletic training services and were molested repeatedly and severely. And the school opposed our adding plaintiffs. Why would they not be entitled to some redress? I mean, these are people that 14, 15 years old, went to school, got molested at school by an employee or volunteer, depending on the era. Why would the school say that they're not responsible for him?
Well, according to court filings, the Miles City Unified School District argues that Jensen was not a full-time employee and that the district should not be liable for the alleged crimes.
We reached out to the district's attorneys for comment and response today, but have not heard back.
Time is running out for firefighters in Miles City as the building that houses their engines, trucks, medics, and the firefighters themselves is deemed structurally unstable. However, the fire chief says he has a short-term fix, which is set to arrive tomorrow. That building is old and outdated and wasn't even built to be a firehouse, according to Miles City Chief Brandon Stevens. He says the roof leaked into the light fixtures where the firefighters sleep, the walls are unstable, and the ground under the fire engines is sinking. He says as soon as the snow starts to gather on the roof, it'll be time to move the firefighters to cots in another location for fear that that roof could give way at any moment.
Currently, we feel that the firefighters are safe, but that time is running out, and we've passed that window of comfortability, if you will. Like, we're not comfortable with our guys in the building right now with the state of the building.
Mobile units will arrive tomorrow to temporarily house the firefighters. They're paid for by a grant from TransCanada. However, Chief Stevens is hoping the public will understand the severity of the situation and pass a possible bond next fall. He says that they are currently working with an architect team on a proposal for the public to vote on.
Well, it's day 3 in the search for a missing 3-year-old boy who fell into the Muscle River east of Roundup.
It's just a real sad story. Under Sheriff Sean Lesnick tells MTN so far their search efforts have been unsuccessful. The boy fell in the river near the Kilby Butte Hutterite colony on Monday. Brutal conditions, including sub-zero temperatures, are making the search even more difficult.
Lesnick tells us conditions are changing out at this site, and officials are now asking the public for some help. He's asking those in the Roundup area with adult-sized light jackets to consider loaning them out to assist in this search effort.
And he says they can be dropped off to the sheriff's office or the Kilby Butte colony. He says to make sure that they're properly marked so that they can be returned.
Now, we're told Lesnick, who is set to take over as sheriff, will postpone his swearing in so he can remain on the scene of this search. Well, turning to weather, Bob, we have one last 2018 review, and that's weather. So let's start with December.
Yeah, we're going to check back, and let me show you. We go back every now and then just see how we did. And let's start with the temperatures. Take a look at this. Here's what we wound up with. All those areas in red, that's the temperatures that were actually above average. And we wound up with 18 during the month of December. It was a pretty good month for that month. And you'll notice here the normal is about 7. So had 7 days where we had normal temperatures and 6 that were below 0. But it all came together, and we wound up with 4.1 degrees warmer than average. And when it comes to snowfall, well, check this out. We wound up with a lot of snow, 8.7 inches, or about half an inch more than what we needed. And by the way, that all came in the last week of the month. Also, we had 15 inches of snow in the season. That means we're now at about 5 inches below average. We'll have your forecast in a few more minutes.
Well, coming up in tonight's 10 o'clock news, over in Italy, could it cost you just to enter Venice? We're going to take a look at the proposal.
And in sports, when the Rock's new series, Titan Games, debuts tomorrow night. This Montana man is one of 64 worldwide to make the cut.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.